soft or something? What's happening? Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام.
Okay, alhamdulillah, I am audible.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Alaikum salam. Let's start, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. رب صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم، وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم، واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك ولا تجعل فيها حظا لغيرك. وصل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Once again, hope everybody is good today. Alhamdulillah. And also hope you had a good week of last week. By the grace of Allah. Sometimes we need the rest. Um, right. We were busy with we're getting on with our scales in Sarf, the Mazid fee scales. We did up until scale number 6 in our last lesson, and we'll carry on from there today, inshallah. Right. Before we start, are there any questions on the scales or anything that's confusing you, or anything that you want to clarify before we do that? No? Okay. Then what we'll do is we'll, as we usually do, revise our scales, repeat them. I know it may seem like very just mechanical rote repetition of words, and you may not see the value in it. But hopefully you would have become accustomed to the idea of memorizing those scales from the first scale in Sarf, and seeing the value of that. But I can guarantee you, if you want to have a journey with the Arabic language, Sarf is of utmost importance. Um, Knowing it will allow you to appreciate the nuances in words, nuances in meanings, etc., that you won't be able to do without Sarf, and without having Sarf somewhat categorized and structured in your mind. So, that's why we're doing it, and just a little bit of motivation to bear with the repetition. I don't know if the repetition is more painful for me or for you, but alhamdulillah, it's a really valuable uh, it's a really valuable thing to know and learn Sarf. Right, so we start with our scale number 2. We learned thus far the scale the fa'ala yufa'alu taf'ilan scale. We learned fa'ala yufa'ilu fi'alan mufa'alatan scale. We learned af'ala yuf'ilu if'alan. We learned tafa'ala yatafa'alu tafa'ulan. And then we learned tafa'ala yatafa'alu tafa'ulan. So we'll revise all of those scales now, inshallah. So everybody, you can say it with me. Bismillah. Fa'ala. 1, 2, 3, go. فعل يفعل تفعيلا مفعل مفعل فعل لا تفعل. Again. فعل يفعل تفعيلا مفعل مفعل فعل لا تفعل. If I were to take another set of root letters on the scale, I could take, so that we can pick a word for today, maybe uh, um, we do كبر already. No, we can do كبر. So everybody can say it with me. كبر يكبر تكبيرا مكبر مكبر كبر لا تكبر. Again. كبر يكبر تكبيرا مكبر مكبر كبر لا تكبر. And what do you think كبر will mean? Anybody?
To be great.
كبر on the first bab will mean to be great. It can mean to be old. It can mean kabura can mean to be great. What do you think it will mean on the second bab?
To cause to be great.
Yeah, to make great. Supposed to be great or to make great. To enhance, to magnify. All of those will be meanings of it. And that we know one of the main meanings of the second bab is causation. So, like when we say, let us do takbir, it means let us magnify Allah. Let us proclaim the greatness of Allah. Let us, or in other words, let's make Allah great by saying Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. It's not that we are actually making Allah great, it's just that we are proclaiming it. But yes, kabbara, yukabbiru means um, it means to make great. And it can also mean to proclaim uh, the greatness of Allah or to exclaim Allahu Akbar. The word kabbara can mean to say Allahu Akbar. That's why when you're making salah, right? Maybe you're making salah in a very big place, and you're making salah in a very big place, and the people at the back, they won't be able to hear the imam in front. Then what usually happens?
If they don't have a microphone, Malala, then they'll have someone that will like relay. Allah.
Yeah, you get a guy somewhere in the middle or something that you will echo
متكلما
what the imam is saying. What do you call that guy?
متكلما.
Not actually a mutakallim.
Is it متكلما؟
You call him a mukabbir.
متكلم.
Mukabbir.
Yeah. Oh.
Why? Because he shouts Allahu Akbar. That's so you call him a mukabbir. From kabbara yukabbiru takbiran mukabbirun mukabbarun kabbir la tukabbir. Okay, but so we move on into the third bab. Let's revise that one. Everybody. كابر sorry فاعل يفاعل فعالا مفاعلة مفاعل مفاعل فاعل لا تفاعل. Again. فاعل يفاعل فعالا مفاعلة مفاعل مفاعل فاعل لا تفاعل. Um, we can say it with another set of root letters. We can do kaf bara here as well. So we'll have kabara, kabara. Everybody say it with me. Kabara, yukabiru, kibaran, mukabaratan, mukabirun, mukabarun, kabir, la tukabir. Again. كابر يكابر كبارا مكابرة مكابر مكابر كابر لا تكابر. One last time. كابر يكابر كبارا مكابرة مكابر مكابر كابر لا تكابر. مكابرة or yeah, مكابرة or yeah, it means to treat someone, there's the connotation of mutuality in it. So to treat someone but with disdain, to treat someone as if you bigger than them almost. So to treat them with disdain as if they lowly, to act haughtily, to act like you big, you something big. Uh, that's what mukabara means. So kabara, yukabiru, kibaran, mukabaratan, will mean to treat someone haughtily or to treat them with disdain, to treat them as if you are greater. Okay, next one.
Some
Afa.
Maulana,
Alaikum
could that
salam.
also be
Yes.
interpreted as being arrogant?
Yes, it's an element of arrogance there. But it means there's another verb that will actually mean to just be arrogant in yourself. This one means to treat someone else. It means to have that arrogance in the way you treat someone else. I don't know if that makes sense. We'll see when we come to maybe the fifth verb or something that will directly just mean that you're just arrogant, whether it relate to you, how you treat someone else or not. It, it, uh, it will refer to just arrogance like that. Okay, we'll see that when we get there. Now we look at af'ala, the fourth verb, the fourth scale. أفعل يفعل إفعالا مفعل مفعل أفعل لا تفعل. Again, أفعل يفعل إفعالا مفعل مفعل أفعل لا تفعل. And we can put our today's set of root letters on there as well. أكبر. So let's say that. أكبر يكبر إكبارا مكبر مكبر أكبر لا تكبر. Again, أكبر يكبر إكبارا مكبر مكبر أكبر لا تكبر. One more time. أكبر يكبر إكبارا مكبر مكبر أكبر لا تكبر. What do you think this means? It also means, like the second verb, it doesn't mean to just be great. Yeah, it means almost like the second verb, to deem something great or to uh, praise something. When you praise something, you when you praise something, again, it's like you make it great with your words. Um, so the verb akbara means to praise something, means to deem something significant or great. That's what the fourth verb means. Right? The word takbir or akbara, oh sorry, rather kabbara yukabbiru takbiran, it has the more specific meaning. It has a general meaning, but the the cultural usage that specifies its meaning uh, is that it's used for Allah. If I just say uh, kabbir, you can understand from that I'm saying say Allahu Akbar. As akbara yukbiru ikbaran is just a more general word that means to praise something, to deem something great. Right. Next one, number 5. Let's see what we have here. Let's say this first scale together. تفعل. Okay. تفعل يتفعل تفعلا متفعل متفعل تفعل لا تتفعل. Again, تفعل يتفعل تفعلا متفعل متفعل تفعل لا تتفعل. I will put out today's set of root letters on me. Kaba, kaf, bara. How do you think it's going to sound? There we go. So let's say تكبر يتكبر تكبرا متكبر متكبر تكبر لا تتكبر. Again تكبر يتكبر تكبرا متكبر متكبر تكبر لا تتكبر. One last time. تكبر يتكبر تكبرا متكبر متكبر تكبر لا تتكبر. And the fifth verb. We know it has a reflexive meaning. Right? It's like causation for yourself. So what do you think this one's going to mean here?
You make yourself great or big.
Yeah. So
Arrogant.
this one here means it's like to deem yourself great. So it's this one here is arrogance.
Arrogant.
To be arrogant, to be haughty, to be arrogant is to be to be proud. All of those are meanings of takabbar. But I mean, I can translate it as to be proud, to be haughty, to be arrogant. But I think if you know the sarf, just I mean, appreciate this. Like I can say to be proud, to be haughty, or whatever. But when you know the sarf, then you know the mechanics of how that meaning is extracted from the word, how that meaning is derived from the word. It has to do with this idea of greatness. And then I add reflexivity to its meaning. And that's how it comes to mean I think myself great, or I deem myself great. And when I deem myself great, it means I'm being arrogant, I'm being haughty, I'm being proud. So
Mulana?
it's yes.
Okay, sorry. After you finish, I just want to make a comment.
Bismillah, you can make the comment.
I see then on the fifth bab, right? In the present tense, it's no more dhamma on the ya. Now it's a fatah on the ya. Because if I don't learn, which one's getting the dhamma and the fatah, and we're going to give it to me mix up, and tell me what, I'm not going to know. So it's just something for myself that I noticed that now in the fifth and the sixth bab and the seventh and the eighth and the ninth and the 10th, they become all fatah on the year, on the present
Yes.
tense.
Yes, that's a good observation. The second, third, fourth, they have a fatha, sorry, they have a dhamma at the beginning of the present tense, right? Whereas the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th, they all have a fatha on the present tense again, right at the beginning of the present tense. The majhul, which is not part of our scale that we learn here, but we know that we can always form the majhul. That will always start with a dhamma, both the past tense and the present tense.
Shukran.
So it's a good observation. Yes, that's a good observation. But you should also just try and remember in your mind the beginnings of all the scales. So second scale is fa'ala yufa'ilu. Third scale is fa'ala yufa'ilu. Fourth scale is af'ala yuf'ilu. Fifth scale is tafa'ala yatafa'alu. Sixth scale is tafa'ala yatafa'alu. That's what we've done thus far. So you should kind of, it's part of the Arabic language. If you like, inshallah, one day we advance in our study of the Quran and you advance in your engagement with the Quran. When you look in an Arabic dictionary or in an Arabic book that's explaining words, they will refer to a word by its past and present tense. So they'll tell you معنى أفعل يفعل هذا, the meaning of let's say for example أكبر يكبر. They're not going to say the meaning of kaf ba ra on the fourth bab. In the Arabic text, it will be the meaning of akbara yukbiru, or kaf ba ra ala wazni akbara yukbiru, something like that. Uh, so it's good to know, just for completeness sake and immersion into the culture of the Arabic language, to know the beginnings of these scales as well. And if you do that, you will easily also be able to identify which ones have the dhamma at the beginning of the present tense and which ones have the fatha. But if you don't want to go that way, you can just say the first 1, 2, 3, 4, they have a dhamma on the, sorry, not 1, just 2, 3, 4, they have a dhamma at the beginning of the present tense, even ma'loom. But from number 1 and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they all have a fatha at the beginning of the present tense. Jazakallah for pointing that out. I think that may help others as well. Jazakallah. Okay, next, our next scale. So we did takabbara, which means to be haughty or great, and I was just pointing out how you can now appreciate that meaning from the scale itself. Right? We now move on to the sixth scale. So we have here tafa'ala. Everybody say that one with me. تفاعل يتفاعل تفاعلا متفاعل متفاعل تفاعل لا تتفاعل. Again, تفاعل يتفاعل تفاعلا متفاعل متفاعل تفاعل لا تتفاعل. I will say it with our root letters of kaf bara. تكابر يتكابر تكابرا متكابر متكابر تكابر لا تتكابر. Again, كابر يكابر sorry, very close to that one, but not that one. It starts with that. تكابر يتكابر تكابرا متكابر متكابر تكابر لا تتكابر. So this word takabara on the sixth bab, it actually has the same meaning like the fifth bab. Actually has the same meaning like the fifth bab, to be arrogant or haughty. I should have put up something here. Means to be arrogant or haughty as well. Actually, that bab, sixth bab, it has a meaning as well of feigning something, feigning or faking something. So you can understand takabur to be like feigning greatness, and that would be a person when they act like they're big, they act like they're great, then that is being arrogant as well. So the sixth bab actually has the same meaning, or very similar meaning to the fifth bab. The mechanics are somewhat different, but the meaning turns out to be somewhat the same.
Sorry, Molana, you're saying the sixth bab is similar to the fifth, but the definition on the table you got it. The six is mutuality. So is that not similar to the third, which is mutuality as well?
Yes, yes. No, in terms of the the scale as a whole, the third bab and the sixth bab are similar. The third bab and the sixth bab are similar in that they both have that element of mutuality. But another connotation of the sixth bab that's not mentioned on that list, right? Another connotation of the third bab, if I go to the list of connotations or meanings of the babs, qualities of the babs, you'll see under bab 6, there's only one mentioned, that's mutuality, right? I'm saying This bab has another meaning that's not here. And that is to feign something. Like I can give you an example of that in something attributed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that when you hear the Quran or you recite the Quran, I can't remember exactly the narration, but this part I do remember. He says, فَإِن لَمْ تَبْكِ فَتَبَاكَوْا. Yeah, he exhorts people to cry when you're hearing the Quran. But he says, if you cannot cry, إِن لَمْ تَبْكِ, if you don't cry, فَتَبَاكَوْا, then make like you're crying, feign crying. So this sixth bab, it also has a connotation of feigning something or faking something. So in relation to the specific verb takabara, which can mean like to feign greatness, and if one feigns greatness, it would imply that they are acting like they're something. They're acting like a big shot. So that also means to be haughty or arrogant. And that's why just for that specific verb, takabara, it has a meaning similar to takabbara, which is reflexive, to deem oneself great. So the one is to deem oneself great, the other one would be to feign greatness. But both of those end up in meaning that the person is acting arrogantly, haughtily, or proud. Is that clear?
Shukran, Maulana.
So maybe you should just add that connotation to that list over there. The sixth bab can also often mean to feign something. Okay. So we had for homework, we were to what exactly was the homework? It was to fill in the scale number 6 stuff, right? And
Gee.
was there any Mazid Feehi from the Quran stuff?
Yes, Mulana said we should
Yes,
do
Maulana. We have to fill it, we have to complete
Yes,
it.
for the 6th scale.
6.
Okay. So what we'll do now is we'll just say some of these 6 scales that we're supposed to do for homework, and then look at some of the Mazid Feehi from the Quran, and then do the next scale with Allah Ta'ala. We had 2 weeks for that scale. Right, so let's just look at these scales. Tabaraka. Tabaraka means to be blessed. So let's say that scale. Tabaraka. Yatabaraku. Tabarukan. Mutabarikun. Mutabarakun. Tabarak. La tatabarak. The next scale. Tasa'ala. To ask one another. So if you see in Tabaraka, you can't really see the connotation of mutuality so much. Here it just has its own meaning. Tasa'ala, you can see the connotation of mutuality. It means to ask one another. Right, so let's say that one. Tasa'ala, yatasa'alu, tasa'ulan, mutasa'ilun, mutasa'alun, tasa'al, la tatasa'al. I thought the answers to the rest of the stuff are in there somewhere. Okay. Tasa'ala. Move on to the next one. Tasa'ala means to ask one another. So if someone is mutasa'il, he's a person that's engaged in a discussion of asking things.
That's Surah Naba.
Excuse me?
Amma alone. Like
Exactly, yes. Yes, that's in Surah Naba. Amma yatasa'aluna. Yatasa'aluna. What is it that they will be asking each other about? Right? It's not just one person asking, not like an interrogation, one person asking another person. No, they will be asking each other about. Right, next one. Tashabaha, to resemble each other, for two things to resemble each other. So tashabaha, yatashabahu, tashabuhan, mutashabihun, متشابه تشابه لا تتشابه. That means for two things to resemble each other. تظاهر, to display. Okay, everybody say that. تظاهر يتظاهر تظاهرا متظاهر متظاهر تظاهر لا تتظاهر. تنازع, mutually dispute. So say that one. تنازع يتنازع تنازعا متنازع متنازع تنازع لا تتنازع. And then تقابل, face. So if two people, so if one person is facing another person, that means they are facing him as well. So تقابل means to face someone, but that implies that the other person is facing you as well. So there's the element of mutuality. So let's say that one. تقابل يتقابل تقابلا متقابل متقابل تقابل لا تتقابل لا تتقابل. Right, so those are those scales that we're supposed to do for homework. How would I tell somebody, don't dispute? لا تتنازع. Okay. Now let's go to, actually before we go to our mazid fi from the Quran, let's just go through the 7th scale. Right? Let's go through the 7th scale, and then we can look at some of those examples in the time that we have remaining. So the 7th bab is now somewhat different to all the others. It's a little bit different to all the others. Here we have an extra, two things extra at the beginning. A hamza and a noon. In. So let's see here. The scale is in fa'ala. Yanfa'ilu. What is that we have extra? I would say a noon, a hamza at the beginning, hamzatul wasl, and a noon at the beginning of before the first root letter. So here we have in fa'ala yanfa'ilu. انفعالا منفعل منفعل انفعل لا تنفعل. Okay, let's say that together. انفعل ينفعل انفعالا منفعل منفعل انفعل لا تنفعل. Again, انفعل ينفعل انفعالا منفعل منفعل انفعل لا تنفعل. Right. So why we went through that now is so that you can try and memorize that for next week, inshallah. We'll deal with it in terms of its meaning and looking at the mazid fi from the Quran and that stuff for it next week. I just wanted to say the scale together so that everybody can hear how the scale should be said. This one is not difficult to identify. This one's very easy to identify. Why is it easy to identify? Because none of the other scales have an extra noon in it. Right? So you'll hear your 3 root letters fa'ala, in fa'ala, but you will just hear a noon at the beginning, in. So, yeah. So, is there any example on this bab that you know? I just wanted to see if anybody's going to tell me, insha'Allah. That's not on this bab. I just recall when I was learning this bab, and one of the guys in the class said, "This is This is one. Insha'Allah. But listen, this is just a joke. Insha'Allah is not on the seventh bab, right? That's that's actually something else. It's in sha'a Allahu. It's a whole different sentence. Inshallah. I don't know. Effective of flow jokies in a Zoom class. Anyways,
You're laughing
so
on mute for that now.
yeah. Anyways, so انفعل ينفعل انفعالا منفعل منفعل انفعل لا تنفعل. That's the seventh bab. Extra noon before the first root letter. And a hamzatul wasl at the beginning as well. So that shouldn't be hard to identify, but it does require practice. It's not very common, but it does occur in the Quran. In fact, we can check on our scale how many times it does occur in the Quran. So it is something that you should know. 51 times in the Quran. So which is not a small, well, it's smaller comparatively, smaller than the rest, but definitely you must know the meaning of the seventh bab as well.
Maulana, is the Surah Infitar on that bab?
Yes.
Okay.
Inshiqaq, infitar, both of them are on that bab. So that's good. That's good that you identified it, mashallah.
Quickly, sorry, before we run out of time, what is the meaning or the connotations of this? Because you see, it's intransitive. How is it different to mutuality?
Intransitive means that it won't usually have a direct object. This is a mistake here. The meaning of inqata'a is a mistake here. Inqata'a means to like you might know the meaning of qata'a. Qata'a means to cut something. Inqata'a means to just to be cut, to be severed, to be cut up. So if we look on the scale, obviously for homework, you guys know the first part of the homework is that you must fill in so you must fill in the rest of the scale. So I think you can just do that for the homework. If you look at the word here, inqalaba will mean to turn around. You can't do this to something else. It's an intransitive verb. It doesn't have a direct object. You can do the action yourself. You can't do it to something else. Even if you look at the next one here, infajara. Infajara, I mean, this verb comes in the Quran, فَانْفَجَرَتْ مِنْهُ اثْنَتَا عَشَرَةَ عَيْنًا. فَانْفَجَرَ, infajara, like it means, this is referring to when Musa alayhi salam hit the ground with his stick and then 12 springs gushed forth therefrom. Right? The verb infajara means to like gush forth but by oneself. So nothing's being done to something else. You understand it? When we say that a verb is intransitive, we mean that it's not an action that gets done to something else. It's just something that you do yourself. So, like that the doer does in and of themselves. So, like to sit is an intransitive verb because you don't sit something. You can sit on something, but I can't sit a chair. Like I can hit a chair. So hitting can be done to something. It's a transitive verb. It can have a direct object, whereas an intransitive verb cannot have a direct object. Another example will be to sleep. It's an intransitive thing. You don't sleep a bed. You can sleep in a bed. You can sleep on a bed. You don't do the act of sleeping to a bed. You just do it yourself. So that's what we mean by the verb being intransitive. On the scale of the qualities of the scales, there's a mistake there. Inqata'a does not mean to fight each other. That's a mistake. The meaning of inqata'a should be what? Let me just should be something that is severed or cut. Like qata'a will mean to cut. I can cut a book. I can cut a page. I can cut a piece of cake. So the act of cutting I can do to something else. So inqata'a will not mean to do the act of cutting to something else, but to be cut, to be severed. I don't know if that makes sense. You understand it. But as we do more examples of the scale, then I think that will become evident and clear. But our time is up. What I want you to do for homework is just you can do this Mazid Feehi form 7. So I think we'll just leave that for our homework for this week. Then next week, inshallah, we can go through the answers to this and the answers to the Mazid Feehi from the Quran of Bab 6. And then you can do Bab 7 Mazid from the Quran next week.
Maybe after we've done all the babs, can we maybe just have like a session or so where we actually go through all the Mazid Feehi from the Quran? Because each of them are different, and it's okay. I personally found it a bit of a struggle to complete a lot of them, because there are certain nuances where it changes the construction of the word, and yeah, it's just not familiar.
Okay, we'll do that inshallah. Just remind me. Did somebody in the class ask me to make a recording of me saying all the babs?
Yes, Maulana.
Oh, sorry about that, man. I thought for some reason that it was the first year class asking me to read the whole story of Man Kasralah's Naam. So I made a recording of myself reading Man Kasralah's Naam for them. Anyway, sorry about that. I will make a recording of myself saying the scales, inshallah, and send it to you. All right, but we end there for now, inshallah. I'm going to speak to the other class. Mullah Irshad is with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to Mullah Irshad as well.
وعليكم
السلام ورحمة
السلام
الله
ورحمة
وبركاته.
الله وبركاته.